Three, two, one. I want to talk to you today. I want to have a serious talk about integrity, journalistic honesty in video journalism when you're working by yourself as a mojo or whatever. And I want to start with a personal story, and I think you'll understand why this is so important to me. When I was very young in my career and just starting out as a producer for public television, still working with crews, I got assigned to do a story about homelessness. This is the kind of stuff we do over Thanksgiving and Christmas. The rest of the time we don't really care about homeless people, but in this case I had to do a homeless story. And I ended up in Camden, New Jersey, the home of Campbell's Soup and also one of the poorest cities in the United States. And there, working with a local priest in a parish, I found a woman named Mary Cherry. She was a single mother with 4 very young kids. She was destitute, she was homeless, and she was living in a public shelter. So it was a great character. And after I had a talk with her, I thought she was sort of the perfect character to have. And so I said, do you mind if we come and do the story? Of course, I had to come back with the crew. So I came back a couple of days later with the crew, and we filmed her an entire day looking for a place to live. And it was beautifully shot. It was heart-rending stuff. She went from public housing place to an apartment she read about an ad to a local motel, and she could find nothing. And she dragged the 4 kids along with her, and we had great low shots of newspapers blowing down the street while she's walking along, and people rejecting her. And finally, at the end of the day, we went back to the shelter, and she has sandwiches that the shelter provides for the kids for dinner. Then she ends up bathing them in the sink in the toilet that everyone shares, and that was it. And I said I still needed an interview with her, and the crew had to go do something else, but I had booked them for the following day. And I said to Mary, we'll be back tomorrow to do an interview. Is that okay with you? And it was fine. And the crew went off to shoot something in Philadelphia and spend the night at the Four Seasons in Philadelphia, wherever they went. And we would come back the next morning at 10 o'clock in the morning. And as I'm starting to leave, Mary turns to me and she says, Mike, can you give me some money? Well, it's against a violation of, CBS rules and NBC rules to pay for news because that's considered checkbook journalism. So you're not supposed to give anybody any money, but the woman had nothing. And I thought, what difference could it possibly make? I'm not going to turn this in an expense form. So I gave her $100 out of my own pocket. And of course, she was delighted, and she'd been very helpful to me and given her time, and she was going to meet me the next day. So, we all went back to the hotel in Philadelphia. We wouldn't stay in Camden. And the next morning, we got up and we went back to the shelter, and there was Mary with the 4 kids. And all I needed now was to do the interview with her, and I was pretty much done. So I sat her in this big chair, and I put the 4 kids around her. They were little children. She was holding them. And I turned to her. I just needed some good sound bites. And I said, Mary, what's it like to search for a home and not find one? And she looked in the camera, and she just started to ramble incoherent words. The man came down, and hot water, and completely nonsensical. So I said, Mary, come on, she'd been fine yesterday. And I said, Mary, tell me if it hurts you not to have a home. And she looked and she said, I went to the store and the man said, just complete nonsense. And I looked at my camera went, she'd taken the $100 I gave her and she'd bought Coke. And she was all coked up in a mess. And the cameraman goes, I got 2 hours and I got to get out of here. So I thought, I'm in serious trouble. I don't have a soundbite from her. I'm never going to be able to cut the piece. And on top of that, I violated every basic rule by giving her money. So I said to the cameraman, just roll. Just keep rolling. And so she talked endlessly, rambling on and on and on, saying nothing. And at the end of an hour or so, or 2 hours, we had 2 hours of just complete nonsensical crap. I said, okay. Then I went back to the edit room, and I went to the editor, Ruben Chadish, this must have been at CBS, and I said, Ruben, do me a favor, just cut me a 7-minute bed of beautiful pictures. And he goes, where's the sound? I said, I'll take care of the sound. You just cut the bed of pictures, okay? And that was for Sunday morning. This is going to air like in 5 days, so I don't have any time here to screw around. So Ruben was terrific editor, was busy cutting the thing together, not really knowing what the story was. And then I took the audio tapes that I had and I took them to a transcription service. And I said to the transcription service, I want you to transcribe every single thing this woman says verbatim and give me 10-second timecode notes all the way down. I know it makes no sense. I know it's incoherent. Just make sure it's perfect. And so they get paid by the page, and they transcribed. And I came back with a notebook about this big, and I sat in the edit room with Ruben, and we went through when I had the transcription book, word by word, and we took out a word here, 3 pages later another word here, a couple pages later another word here, 4 pages later another word here, and we created something for her to say that she had never really said. And so the thing finally aired. I made it, delivered it, and the thing aired, and you see her walking down the street with the newspapers rolling around with the kids with their hands, and you hear this voice going underneath going, "My children are often hungry and cold. There is nothing to eat." I mean, really slow but perfect. What Reuben had done was he had sliced together word by word and made her say something. I mean, terrible. A terrible thing to do. And of course it aired and everyone went, "What a touching story, how terrific, let me send her money." I said, no, that's the last thing that you want to do. But it made me think that the integrity of what we do, and of course we do this all the time, not to such a great extent, but we'll interview somebody and then we'll drag out a line here and we'll put in a line here, and you'll see those cutaway with the reporter going like this, and we slam together and make people say things they didn't really want to say. Even if we interview somebody for 20 minutes and we use 2 minutes of it, it's not really honest. Now, the great advantage of this technology is that you can show people what it is you've recorded. So if you're going to have, what we do now when we do this all the time is we'll shoot a sequence and then we'll sit the subject down, like Mary, in front of the sequence that we just shot, because it's there on the laptop in the timeline, just the sequence, and we'll put a microphone on her and say, 10 minutes ago we shot you looking for a house, looking for your family. Tell me how it made you feel. And then we have them talk and narrate to the actual shots that they are watching. Well, one thing is it puts them in the same mindset as the viewer because they're in exactly the same time and space. And the other one is it is completely journalistically honest. We don't have to interview people for an hour and suck out a minute here and a minute here, a minute here, which is still done to this day, and I find sort of morally reprehensible. What I did was terrible, but it's just a larger version of what gets done all the time in network and television news. You don't have to do it. So working as a video journalist by yourself, you can use the technology in a very different way. Shoot a sequence, show it to the subject, let them talk to the shots that they're seeing in exactly the same place that the viewer is going to see it, and then you can show it back to them and say, do you feel comfortable with that? Is that what you want to say? Does this portray you properly? To me, this is a much more honest way of doing it. And one great advantage of this new technology is it lets us reinvent the way we do news and journalism in a way that's not only simpler and cheaper, but more honest. And to me, that's very important. I'll talk to you later.